Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Israeli-Palestinian Affairs, Andrew Miller has resigned from President Joe Biden administration, becoming almost 10 top U.S. officials to have resigned since the Israeli war in Gaza city of Palestine began. Andrew Miller is reported to be a non-resident scholar at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. He previously worked at the National Security Council and the State Department on a variety of Middle East issues. In 2022, Andrew Miller became the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Israeli-Palestinian Affairs in the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs at the U.S. Department of State, spending only 1 year and 7 months in the office. He has served as a senior policy advisor to U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield, covering the Middle East and North Africa, counterterrorism, political military affairs, and intelligence. Also, between 2017 to 2020, Andrew Miller was the Deputy Director for Policy at the Project on Middle East Democracy, POMED, and a non-resident scholar in the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace's Middle East Program. His biography indicated that Miller's previous government assignments included serving as the Director for Egypt and Israel military issues on President Obama's National Security Council from 2014 to 2017, where he was involved in deliberations regarding U.S. security assistance to Egypt and Israel and Middle East peace, among other issues. He also worked at the U.S. Department of State in a variety of intelligence and policy roles, including in the Bureau of Intelligence and Research, Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton's policy planning staff, and at the U.S. embassies in Cairo and Doha. Miller earned A in Political Science from Dickinson College and an M.A. in Foreign Affairs from the University of Virginia. According to Washington Post on Friday, Andrew Miller, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Israeli-Palestinian Affairs, told colleagues Friday that he had decided to leave his job. He cited his family, saying he has seen them sparingly as the 8-month war in Gaza has become all-consuming. Miller told colleagues that if not for those responsibilities, he would have preferred to remain in his job and fight for what he believes, including in those areas where he disagreed with administration policy. It was added that Miller had been intending to resign for some time due to the U.S. administration's position on the Gaza war. A senior State Department official and skeptic of the Biden administration's, Bear Hogg, approach to the government of Israel resigned this week in a setback for U.S. diplomats pushing for a sharper break with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his far-right coalition, said 3 people familiar with the matter, Washington Post added in its report. Alan Shelling, a State Department official working on human rights issues in the Middle East, had earlier in the year resigned in protest of U.S. support for Israel's war in Gaza. Alan worked as a foreign affairs officer in the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights and Labor. As a representative of a government that is directly enabling what the International Court of Justice has said could plausibly be a genocide in Gaza, such work has become almost impossible. Unable to serve an administration that enables such atrocities, I have decided to resign from my position at the Department of State, Alan Shelling stated. Hala Rarit, the Arabic spokesperson for the U.S. Department of State, had previously tendered her resignation in protest against U.S. policy concerning Gaza. Rarit, of Moroccan descent, dedicated 18 years of service at the U.S. State Department, according to reports. A State Department official, Stacey Gilbert, had in May resigned over a U.S. report that claims Israel hasn't obstructed humanitarian aid to Gaza, adding that the Biden administration has relied on the report to justify continuing to send billions of dollars of weapons to Israel. Stacey Gilbert, formerly of the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, tendered her resignation towards May ending, citing her disagreement with the report's findings. Gilbert's resignation follows that of Josh Paul, a former director in the U.S. Department of State. There is abundant evidence showing Israel is responsible for blocking aid. To deny this is absurd and shameful. I cannot continue working for a government that denies and enables Israel's deliberate carnage in Gaza, the official, Stacey Gilbert stated. Gilbert said she decided to quit when a report to Congress emerged on whether nations comply with internationally accepted laws of war and whether or not they block humanitarian assistance. The report, requested in February, was released in May. When the report came out on May 10th, and I read the conclusion, especially the conclusion that Israel was not blocking humanitarian assistance, I decided I would resign because that's absolutely not the opinion of subject matter experts in the State Department, USAID, the humanitarian community, organizations that are working in Gaza. So many officials have resigned in protest of the U.S. government's support for Israel war in Gaza. Smith and Gilbert bring the total number of Biden administration officials to have publicly resigned over U.S. policy on Gaza to 9, though Josh Paul, the first official to resign, said that at least 24 more had left quietly, without a public declaration, according to media posts on social media. It would be recalled that a group of Hamas fighters invaded southern Israel on October 7, 2023, killing over 1,139 people and kidnapping over 250 others. Israel has since launched a full-scale war in the Gaza city of Palestine, and the Gaza Health Ministry says more than 37,000 people have been killed in Gaza by Israeli troops in retaliation.
OsazuwaAkonedo, bringing you the news in a more digital way.